Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave and this is episode 1101B and today's date is October 14th, 2016 and the title of the episode is EU Prepares for Dark Scenario Cyber Attacks That Could Black Out Europe. Now before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. Tomorrow, Saturday, I'll be placing an interview up on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. This is with Bill Holter. And he has a lot to say about what is happening in the economy, where everything is going, and I would suggest people should listen to this interview. Again, it will be on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. You can also go to the x22report.com site. You can scroll down a little bit, look over to the right-hand side, you'll see the video there. Same thing with newssentinel.com. Scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, you will see the interview there, and you can play it there. And if you are on the email alert system, I will email you in the morning. You will get it if you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. You should receive an email from YouTube. If not, the interview should be uploaded by 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, we've been talking about Obamacare for quite a while, and at this point, we realize that Obamacare is a complete disaster, and as time is going on, it is getting worse and worse. We see co-ops failing, they're going bankrupt, insurance companies are leaving the marketplace, and we see right now that when Obama was out there pushing this on the American people, and when he said that, listen, you can keep your plan, you can keep your doctor, you can keep everything. It's absolutely fantastic. We can see right now that all of that was a complete lie. And as Obamacare continually deteriorates and implodes, we see that it's getting worse for the people. Premiums are skyrocketing. And at least 1.4 million people, well, they're set to lose their current health plans in 2017 because insurers are pulling out of Obamacare exchanges all over the country, and these individuals need to sign up with a new provider. And we see right now there's about 32 states where people will lose their Obamacare plan, and we see that in many of these states there was Aetna, United Healthcare, and many others where they're saying, you know something, we just can't be a part of this. And it looks like right now, and this could change, it looks like Obamacare might be losing about 1.4 million people. Now, remember, they're trying to get all the illegal immigrants onto Obamacare. This was their plan from the beginning. We already see in California, they're passing legislation to allow the illegals to come onto Obamacare. And this was planned from the beginning. This was part of the agenda to bring them in, have them go to the low-paying jobs, because remember, they believe that TPP, TTIP, CETA, they was all going to be put into place, and we were going to have low-paying manufacturing jobs. Everyone was going to be going on to Obamacare, and they were just preparing for all of this. That's what this was all about. And we can see right now that the whole thing is just crumbling and falling apart. TPP, TTIP, looks like this is not going to go anywhere. Already in Belgium, we see they're denying CETA, and what is happening is every plan they put into place is completely falling apart. Now, we know the U.S. government central bankers, their plan is not just to collapse the system. Their plan is to restart the system. Now, of course, they have to cover it up with war. And then once the war is over, of course, they'll reduce the population. Once the population is reduced, they will introduce a new monetary system. And they'll say this is good for the people. And of course, during this period, they've already been planning of how they want the world to look. And if you think about it, part of their plans are going forward, other plans are not. But they'll never quit, because we know they passed the internet off to the UN. They wanted the TPP, the TTIP, because that gave them a court system, a corporate court system, which overruled the governments, which was kind of like a one world government, because governments would have to listen to the courts and they would have to obey them. The UN has the internet, and we can see already they've been changing the education of our young to believe that rights are privileges, weapons are bad, there is global warming, everything to fit into their model, because eventually when they restart the system, they want a carbon tax, they want to remove the rights of the people. So their whole plan is not just to collapse the system, not just to reset the system, but to change everything the way it is, to change it into what they want. And we can see that they need certain control. They need control of the currency, which they have right now. They need control of information. Well, they have control of the corporate media, but they don't have control of the information on the internet. And we see today already, Obama was out there saying that America's wild, wild west media environment, which allows conspiracy theorists, well, this needs to be stopped because it's destroying a common basis for debate. And Obama said, democracy requires citizens to be able to sift through lies and distortions. He says we're going to have to rebuild within the wild, wild west of information flow. We're going to need some sort of curating function that people agree to. He says there has to be some sort of way in which we can sort through information that passes some basic truthness tests and those that we have to discard because they just don't have any basis in anything that's actually happening in the world. He says it's hard to do, but I think it's going to be necessary. It's going to be possible. And when we hear what he's saying, is that he is telling everyone right now that whatever the corporate media says, that's the truth. Whatever you hear on the internet, maybe from like Drudge and others, the X22, I'll throw myself in there, when you hear it from these other people, these other organizations, well, there's no basis to it. There's no truth. We need to go back to a closed system where they have control of the information. Now, again, when he talks about truthness, a truthness test, what does that mean? Whose truth? Because as we know, the government continually lies to the people. I mean, let's take a very simple example. We just discussed Obamacare. Now, he was out there telling everyone that you're going to be able to keep your plan. You're going to be able to keep your doctor. There'll be no changes. It's going to be fantastic. He created the Affordable Care Act for the people. Now, the alternative media, not the corporate media, was saying that you wouldn't be able to keep your plan, that this is not going to be affordable, that it's going to have an impact on jobs. So when we look at this very simple example, the truth test would be that the corporate media that was following and supporting Obamacare, they were lying. And the alternative media, who is telling you exactly what is happening now, they told the truth. So in this respect, we would have to get rid of the corporate media. We would have to maybe censor the government because they just lied to us. So when he says truthness test, it's going to be the government's version of it. And this is what Google is working on, a fact-based system. Again, whose facts? And this is going to be a huge problem going forward. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to change America for what happens after the collapse. Think about everything they're doing. It has nothing to do with right now. They're trying to get rid of weapons, change our children in the way they're thinking about the Constitution, about rights, about privileges, teaching them a different model for the future. They need to control the internet, control what people are thinking, the information that is out there. They need to create a new system. They want a population that is subservient to the central banking system. And this is their plan for after the collapse. Now, out in Ukraine, we can see that things are really starting to heat up. We see Ukrainian army units. They have attacked positions of the forces of the self-proclaimed Donetsk People's Republic. And the Ukrainian side is intentionally delaying the pullout of military personnel and armaments from that area. And they're continually repeating that the Minsk agreement is completely dead. And we knew they were never going to follow the Minsk agreement. We can see already the United States government central bankers, they've been providing Ukraine with lethal, non-lethal weapons. Many of the other countries have providing the Ukrainian government with lethal weapons. The United States has advisors in there training the National Guard, the armed forces, the police. And we know at this point that the United States government central bankers, they are pushing war on all fronts. We see the U.S. Department of State has approved a $195 million sale of field radar systems to Kuwait's government. They're going to provide situational awareness for security forces in Kuwait to detect rotary wing aircraft along the country's borders. And we can see already right now that the United States is providing weapons to all its allies, preparing for what is coming. We see Japan right now is seeking to expand its military base in Djibouti. And of course, they're saying this is in response to the Chinese, because the Chinese is also building a base there. And right now, Japan is now in negotiation with Djibouti government to build some type of base in this area. And you have to remember, Japan was a pacifist country. They had a pacifist constitution. It was drawn up after World War II. And it bars it from any military engagements except in cases of self-defense. However, they had an amendment passed in 2015 which expanded this to collective self-defense for allies. And of course, this was done in preparation for war. Because we've been following this, tracking this, and we understand the United States government central bankers have been moving military assets. NATO has been moving military assets, building up troops, preparing for war with China and Russia, North Korea, Syria, Iran. And we see already at this point that the United States government central bankers, they are in a position right now where if they don't do something, the entire system just collapses. Everything is based off the petrodollar. This is all interconnected. When you hear war, when you hear the United States is in the Middle East, when you hear the United States is in the South China Sea, when they're in Ukraine, this all has to do with the economy, with the central bank, with the creation of currency, with debt. And we see right now the U.S. has already fired missiles into Yemen, and they destroyed radar systems, and we're seeing that the U.S. military, well, they're preparing for a ground attack in Yemen. They're laying the groundwork for an invasion of Yemen. The Pentagon said it is preparing for possible new strikes in Yemen. Now, you know it's not going to be maybe. It's going to be, yes, they're going to strike inside of Yemen. And we know that they've been preparing for U.S. forces to go into each and every one of these countries. Because if they don't, the people of these countries will take their countries back. They will kick out the central bank. They will kick out the United States government central bankers. And the system will completely crash. And this will be out of the hands of the central bankers. And they don't want this to happen. So what are they preparing for? Well, we've been talking about a cyber attack for quite a while and how that's going to bring down the power grid. And Obama signed an executive order related to space weather. And he did this yesterday. And he acknowledged that solar storms could take out the power grid, water supplies, and other critical infrastructure, not only in the United States, but throughout the world. So the executive order, titled Coordinating Efforts to Prepare the Nation for Space Weather Events, laid out a plan to prepare the country for something to happen. And we can see that this has happened before. 4 years ago, Earth was nearly hit by a storm that could have taken out the power grid. NASA scientists reported during that period of time. In 1859, a solar storm slammed into Earth and rendered the telegraph machines, the most advanced technology back in the day, well, it was completely unusable. And if this does occur once again, we're going to have technology completely fried. Now, does it order the government, does it order the institutions that control the power grid, the water supply, and everything else to protect these systems? Well, no. The executive order really doesn't say that. It doesn't say that it's there to protect them. They want certain agencies to do things, like the Department of Homeland Security, to issue regular alerts and warnings about space weather. It wants the Department of Homeland Security to coordinate responses to space weather and to maybe in the future recover from what has happened here. Now, while Obama was signing that executive order, we see out in Europe, the EU is putting together a doomsday plan. They're preparing for a dark scenario of cyber attacks that most likely will devastate power, communications, water, gas, and everything else. And we can see during this period they had about 700 security experts from 30 countries. They were all involved. Scenarios featured power cuts, attacks on drones and ransomware. And they are preparing for a complete power grid scenario where everything just shuts down. And there are experts that have warned that cyber attacks on any number of systems, including satellites, nuclear power stations, would result in global catastrophe. They also talked about how cyber attacks would hit IT security companies, banks, cybersecurity agencies, and bring down the financial system. If there was a well-coordinated cyber attack on the nation's power grid, the entire system would come down, and it would take a very long time to restore power to all different areas. And we can see from this scenario what they're trying to say here. And we've been talking about this for quite a while. We're here at the end game of this economy. We're heading off to war. Of course, the United States just can't go ahead and bomb Syria and Russia. Well, they did before. They said it was an accident. They can do it maybe once. They do it again, it will be war. So they need to come up with some other type of plan. And that other plan, it would have to be an event. And it would have to be something huge. Something that they really didn't have to prove. And most likely that's going to be a cyber attack. Now, I do believe to put fear in the people, they're going to need physical attacks along with this. And it's not just going to happen throughout Europe. It's going to happen here in the United States, where they will bring down the power grid, one way or another. And they'll make it look like another nation did this. Just like they're saying Russia is cyber attacking the election systems, and all they have to do is point their finger. Well, they're going to do the same thing with the power grid, with the banking system. Because we're at this point where they don't have many options left. We're at this point where the entire economic system is crumbling and falling apart. We're at this point where their plans in the Middle East, well, they're not working. They will not get into Syria. They will not get into Iran. They will not be able to control the entire Middle East and keep the petrodollar intact. The dollar right now is done. They know it. They are working on plans to create this event, to bring us to war, so they can restart the entire system. This is what this is all about. And we can see already that they're going to be pushing as hard as they possibly can to get this war started. They've already done it. We're already in war in many of these different countries. All they need now is a flashpoint to say that we are in World War III. And this is what they've been pushing for. And we can see already that they're going to try to get Assad removed. They're going to try to go back into Yemen. They're going to try to go into all the other Middle Eastern countries. But eventually what's going to happen, Russia, China, they're all going to say enough is enough. We need this to stop. They're going to go to the UN. Things are going to get heated up. Maybe the people of these different countries, maybe in Libya, will call Russia in and say, can you assist us? Maybe something will happen in Syria. We don't know where the flashpoint will be, but we know it's coming soon. If the elections don't go the way they want, and they do bring up the case of a cyber attack on the election system, remember, the United States and NATO consider a cyber attack on a nation an act of war, which means they will go to a physical war. And we can see right now, all of this could happen in the next month or so. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.